Let's prepare on gantry girders. So first let us see what is gantry girder. So gantry girder is also a type of beam only which is specifically used for supporting the unlaterally supported beams. Okay, so it is just a crane bridges supported here. Okay, so this is used for any weightlifting purposes and all. Okay, so this is the simple diagram showing you the assembly of this gantry girders and the crane bridge. Okay, so first this will be a column, or we call it a stanchion when it is in the steel structures, and then they'll be placing a bracket for support. So upon that bracket only this gantry girder will be placed. Okay, so it is of I section or box section of any section. So this will be extending towards a longitudinal. Okay, so this will be extending in this way, and then above that a rail will be placed. So this will be a rail, so above that only the crane bridge will be placed. Okay, so upon this rail also will be extending like this gantry girder also will be extending like this. Okay, and like this only the crane bridge will be moving in the longitudinal way, and here a crab or trolley is present here, so where the hook is there, so this only is used for lifting the weights. So this will be moving in this direction. Okay, so now the crane could move, that is in this direction also, that is the hook could move in this direction and also this direction. Okay, so it can cover a certain area. So this is the purpose they have used this gantry girder. So what are the loads that are acting in the gantry girder? So that we will see first. Okay, so one is the vertical load and another one is lateral thrust and longitudinal thrust. So both are its loads only, and then the impact stresses also in addition it is occurred here. Okay, so first what are this vertical load means? You can see this diagram. So this is just the I section gantry girder, and the weight of this crab or trolley, or the weight of this crane bridge, and the weight we are lifting, no, so all these weights will be acting vertically in the gantry girder. So that only I have drawn here as vertical loads. Okay, so where the crane bridge is located, no, so along that and that position the vertical loads will be applied. So what is this lateral thrust means? When you move this trolley in the left or right direction, and when you start it or when you suddenly stop it, there will be a force created in here towards this direction. Okay, so that only we call it as the lateral thrust. So it will be in this direction towards the gantry girder. And the next one is the longitudinal thrust. So when the crane bridge itself, so this whole bridge, when it moves towards the rail, so this is your rail part, this one, no, so this is your rail part. So when it's move in this directions, and when it start and stop suddenly, there will be longitudinal thrust, that is the loads along the longitudinal section of this gantry girder. So it will be in this direction. Okay, so these are the three main loads that are applied here, and then the impact stresses in additions. Okay, so normally in the problems we'll be calculating all these loads and we'll be designing the gantry girders, but that is not necessary for the exams, because it is just 15 mark questions like that it will be going, so they won't be asking anything about that. So to know these loads and why these loads are acting here, so this is important in this chapter. And then we'll be seeing the deflection limits of this gantry girder, and also the imposed loads due to this impact stress that is created, no, some additional loads I told, no, so that we'll be seeing. So this is all enough for this gantry girders. So here the type of the load and the additional load is given. Okay, so when this is the case means this much additional load is applied there, so you should consider this load also in the design. Okay, so that is what we are studying here. So the first case is when the vertical forces are transferred to the rails, and the next case will be horizontal forces transferred to the rails. Okay, so in both cases we will be studying. So we already saw when the vertical force acts and when the horizontal thrust acts, no, so that is the simple case here. So when first one is for electric overhead cranes. So this crane movement, no, it is done actually by electric and also by manually also. Okay, so based on that, the additional loads changes. So the first case is for electrical overhead cranes, it is 25% of the maximum static wheel load. Okay, so static wheel load means the crab or that trolley is moving, no, so there we'll be calculating the static wheel load. So due to the weight and everything, we'll be calculating. So an extra 25% of that load is added to the design. Okay, and then hand operated crane means 10% of that maximum static wheel load is enough, that is we are adding as an additional load here. So this is about vertical forces. When the horizontal forces is transferring to the rails means, and when the electrically operated crane is going on means, 10% of the weight of that crab or trolley plus weight of that lifted. Okay, so some objects will be lifted with the hook, no, so the weight of that lifted objects from the crane, so that also should be added as the additional load. When the hand operated crane means, it is 5% of weight of the crab and weight of the objects lifted by the crane. Okay, and the third case is when the horizontal forces acting along the rails in the longitudinal way. Okay, so horizontal means we have two things, one is lateral and one is longitudinal. Okay, the first two cases, the lateral section, and the third one is when the longitudinal force is acting. So at that time 5% of static wheel load is taken as the additional load. So this is enough. So this is all about the additional loads to be considered in design other than the basic vertical and lateral longitudinal loads. And then the limiting deflection. So this is the maximum deflection to be provided. It should not go beyond this value. Okay, so when it is manually operated, it should be L by 500. So L is the span of the gantry girder, so the total length along the longitudinal way, no, so it will be your length, and this will be asked in the question. So just they'll be giving the span and ask you to calculate the limiting deflection, and the condition also they'll be providing you. Okay, when it is electrically operated, it is divided into two categories. One is it is obtaining a weight of, or it is carrying a weight of up to 500 kilonewton means it is L by 750. If it is more than 500 kilonewton means it should be L by 1000. And then other moving loads such as charging cars, because we are having this crabs and trolleys, no, so they use this charging cars upon that crane bridge itself to do the purpose. Okay, so then these loads are called as other moving loads. So when this is also happening means it should be L by 600. Thank you, and keep watching for the next lecture on roof trusses.